Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Lina Washington, Sean Cunningham, your ABC 10 sports team, here with you to talk some NBA playoffs. We got a closeout game potentially tonight in Milwaukee, but of course, we are turning our attention to the series in the West in Oakland, tied at 2, and the Warriors are looking to take a commanding 3-2 series lead. One of these teams is going to have to win on the road. Right.
It hasn't happened yet, and it's so funny because I think we were talking about it last week, those first two games in Oakland. We're like, when's the real James Harden going to show up? I mean, granted, he put up some points, but it was all from the free throw line. He had a terrible shooting night, and then some home cooking was all that was ordered. I mean, he'd go into Houston, take care of business, and he's playing at that MVP caliber level that matched really what we saw from Kevin Durant in these first two playoff series.
Right. Yeah, Kevin Durant is leading all postseason scorers right now with 35 points per game averaging. James Harden is right behind him at 31 points.
Ever since he said, I'm Kevin Durant. I'm still Kevin Durant.
Yeah, reminder.
Yeah.
But Kevin Durant and the Warriors will need to get a win tonight in Oakland and then potentially get a win in Houston on Friday night in Game 6 because this series has been so tight. The largest margin of victory was Game 2, I believe, 6 points. And that was the last time we saw these teams in Oakland. But 6 points separating. And I saw your tweet, and I actually added it up myself. I saw it on your timeline. The Warriors have outscored the Rockets 448 points to 447 points. That is how close and tight this series is.
Well, and it just shows you the home court advantage. I mean, and this has been such a physical series. I think everyone has kind of wanted to see someone test the Warriors and their mettle in that physicality. And certainly it happened right out of the gate in Game 1 with, Harden's eyes, and then you see Steph's finger. I mean, there's all kinds of storylines that are going along. But then it's also kind of fun to see who's the player that all of a sudden is struggling. And I think all eyes have been on Klay Thompson really
and
the last
Steph,
two.
Too.
Yeah. I mean, definitely in Houston. But I mean, in the last game, there's so much attention that's been on Klay because of his offensive game and how they need him to come through. They've gone with that death lineup, and everyone has struggled at times, with the exception of Kevin Durant. Now you've got Sean Livingston, who's questionable for this game. So does that mean Quinn Cook comes in? Maybe. But all eyes on Klay, and particularly when he says, I'm going to play better. He says, the next game, I'm going to be a lot better. And he's a man of few words. And when he says stuff like that, that's like, oh boy, like what's going to happen next?
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, Steph, and it's not even on his shooting hand. I mean, that's kind of been the series. That's kind of been, we saw that in, I think, the first part of Game 4. Steph, in Game 3, and the first game in Houston, he comes out and he's struggling right off the bat. And then everyone's looking at Steph, and he kind of gets it right again. 30-point outing, but they still lose. Now if they can just get Klay up to speed, Draymond has played pretty well. He's shown the aggressiveness on offense early on.
Right.
I think it just really comes down to that the physicality. And oh, by the way, Houston has had some incredible performers like PJ Tucker.
34 years old. He was so out of breath listening to his post game at the end of Game 4. I mean, he laid it all on the floor.
Yeah.
And that's what you need with a team like Houston. Chris Paul hasn't really been the role player that he needs to be in this series, but Eric Gordon has, yes.
And it's funny, you mentioned PJ Tucker and how exhausted he was. That was Klay. In Game 4. He's hunched over. He doesn't move for like 30 seconds. And I'm like, I've never seen that from Klay before. Ever. And he's one of the most elite defenders in the league. So I'm not so worried about what he does on offense. It's more of the defensive thing, but I've never seen him that exhausted. So, and now we're at a moment where if this goes 7, we're playing 3 playoff intense games in Houston, Oakland,
Houston, and then back to Oakland by Sunday afternoon, because it'll be on our air at 12:30.
Right. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, the travel, you add up the time change. I mean, these guys are in the lavish hotels and lavish flights, but it does take a toll on the body, and it's going to be interesting. I kind of suspect that Houston has gotten the momentum a little bit. I've got to suspect that the Warriors are going to come out and make a statement early on tonight.
Well, they're going to have to, and they're going to need the crowd behind them. And of course, that when that crowd is behind you at Oracle, I mean, you get that ride, you ride that wave, and as we saw in Game 2, they rode that through the end, and it's been tight down the stretch, but the Warriors and the Rockets have protected home floor. I do want to make a mention, though, of a report I saw earlier by Mark Spears of the Undefeated saying that DeMarcus Cousins may or may not feel confident that he might make a return during this playoff series, if not the postseason alone. Of course, he injured his quad in his second career playoff game in that earlier series against the Clippers, but he said that he's been recovering. The progress has been good for him, so we will see if DeMarcus Cousins might make a return.
I would be very shocked. I mean, I would be staggered.
Well, everyone said it was season ending. I mean, Steve Kerr said he does not expect him to come back.
And it's good that DeMarcus feels that way, and I know Kerr has sprinkled it out there because obviously, Kevon Looney and company, Alfonso McKinney, these guys haven't been able to get the job done. Bogut has almost been rendered useless in the series. So DeMarcus and his skill set, even at 65% of what he is, could be a factor. But at the same time, I just can't imagine Steve Kerr just
greenlighting that.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Let's put you in. And I think, look, if it gets to a point in the Western Conference Finals, maybe depending on how his healing has gone and the quad, but I just don't see it. I really don't see DeMarcus Cousins playing another minute for the Warriors this season and really at all.
At all.
But especially after some conversations that I had, I mean, but what a difference a week can make. I mean, if your healing progression goes, and I would still be very surprised.
Well, we'll keep an eye on that, but that's just something that I found very interesting, an interesting development in this series. But, of course, we're talking about who's going to make it out of the West. Denver is one win away from making it to the Western Conference Finals after last night's blowout win over Portland. Damian Lillard had 22 points, but Nikola Jokic had 25. And it was like, both of last night's games were pretty much statement games. But, I mean, that was Mike Malone and company. They're getting the job done.
Game 5s have been disappointing. You kind of want to see, and maybe that's what we see in Houston tonight, in Oracle tonight with Houston. Maybe it's a closer game, but Denver came up and said, this is what we do to the Blazers all year long. This playoff series should not be any different. I liked kind of the chippiness at the end where Myers Leonard, good for him. I mean, Myers Leonard, he finally showed a little bit of fight. That wasn't a flagrant. That was not a flagrant. It's a bump. I thought that was weak, and it probably get rescinded, I would imagine. But
hopefully for him.
Even if it doesn't, I mean, it just adds some intrigue, and it shows that Portland wasn't done, even though they got kind of stuck on.
They got bullied last night.
And kudos, by the way, to Mike Malone and what he said about he lives 2 minutes from that school with the shooting the other day, and to see the Nuggets kind of put all that stuff in the background, because it does affect that community, and it does affect that team, and they had a moment of silence, and it obviously involved the head coach in a pretty unusual way, and he talked about it before the game, and it's like, all right, now we got to pull that up and try and win a basketball game.
Right. It's amazing how much they can compartmentalize their personal lives before going out and competing at a high level there. But the Denver Nuggets are 1 win away from closing out their series against the Portland Trail Blazers. That Game 6 coming up on Thursday. And then Philadelphia and Toronto. The Raptors are 1 win away after spanking Philly. And Joel Embiid is sick, and he's not getting much help from his teammates. Ben Simmons is struggling. JJ Redick, where are you? Jimmy Butler is scoring and leading the team in scoring, but in losing efforts and blowout losses, 36 points and more. I mean, this series doesn't seem to be even close in its scoring.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. So.
And Kawhi Leonard just looks like otherworldly.
Right.
I mean, there's people now talking heads on TV now talking about the comparisons to Kobe, and I think that's settle down.
Let's relax
and just admire what he's doing. And as a two-way player, he's one of the best in the league. But certainly, this is what everyone had forgotten about Kawhi Leonard and his year off and the injury that he had, and what we remember in San Antonio and being a Finals MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. And I kind of hope he stays in Toronto.
Yeah, I mean, he's been flourishing. He seems to be a little bit more open with the media.
It just gives Drake more to talk about.
Absolutely.
We don't need that.
Well,
no one got time for that.
Well, speak for yourself.
All right.
And then we have, of course, in the East, the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo looking to close things out at home against the Boston Celtics, and a lot of people saying this could be the last time we see Kyrie Irving in a Celtics jersey.
That was not a good optic.
No.
I mean, to see him leave, I think there was 10, 11 seconds left on the clock. He says, the game is over. It's the final time in Boston. Not that he should have sit there and waved at everybody and thinking that his series is done at 3-1, but, I mean, Paul Pierce isn't looking too good right now. I mean, he said that after Game 1 and Boston's win over Milwaukee, that, this series is done.
Oh, I mean, a lot of people felt that way. I mean, the energy just sort of shifted in favor of the Celtics. You looked at that and said, wow, I don't know how they're going to bounce back at home.
Yeah, after one game, you're going to sit there and say, I don't care if it was a 30-point blowout. I mean, it's their series for a reason.
Right.
One game, and you're going to be like, they're done.
Well, they're certainly showing signs of life, because after that loss, they have not lost again, and they are 1 win away. They're looking to close things out at home. You mentioned Kobe Bryant. We're going to mention the Lakers real quick, because one quick update on the coaching search is Tyronn Lue might not be their new head coach, because apparently the talks and the deals have stalled. They've come to an impasse, and they don't have a head coach down in L.A.
If you're Tyronn Lue, you're kind of looking at the landscape, and you're like, all right, Monty Williams is pretty situated now with Phoenix.
In Phoenix?
My real competition right now looks to be Jason Kidd, Tom Thibodeau, maybe
Right.
some guys that are out there, and obviously LeBron wants me.
Right.
So depending upon whether it's money, years, or there's a disagreement over who the organization wants to tie to your assistant coaching list, which it sounds like it's Jason Kidd, and maybe that Tyronn Lue is like, no, I'm good. I don't need my replacement sitting behind me. You gotta let a coach pick his staff.
Yeah.
Even if you want Jason Kidd, that's all fine and dandy. If you want Jason Kidd in 2 years, hire Jason Kidd now.
Well, I think picking your staff is going to be a difficult situation anywhere when LeBron is involved because you're going to have some outside influences.
Should just let LeBron player coach and put Mav on the bench. See if Maverick Carter, his boy, he can just sit there and.
I know Rich Paul probably has some handles.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
If
they form that entire Akron St. Mary's team again.
Yeah.
That'd be funny.
Hey,
You're
All-Star.
not gonna
Hey, if Sacramento gets the All-Star game, maybe we're calling dibs on that being an event for All-Star weekend. Is LeBron and the St. Mary's team
that's outstanding.
Reunites because this was the site of his NBA debut, wasn't it?
It was.
So it makes sense.
Yeah, at
Full
Arco
circle.
Arena. Yeah, Arco Arena made his debut 2003. He even had his Nike commercial for his shoe.
Right.
That actually happened before, and he got Mike Bibby to play in it, and George Gervin sitting courtside, and.
Hey,
They
just throwing out some ideas. It's on the record.
could happen.
But yeah, Sean's going to make the trip out to Oakland for Game 5. We're going to have post-game reaction on our ABC 10 YouTube channel. We've got an updated playlist for the NBA playoffs. And, of course, if you want to stay up to date or if you missed anything during the Sacramento Kings season, we do not have an update for you on the lawsuit involving Luke Walton and sexual assault allegations against him made by former sports reporter Kelly Tennant. But we, of course, will keep you updated. And no word from the Kings front office since all of that news broke. So things have been pretty quiet on this side, but in Oakland, they're about to get rowdy, not only with the NBA playoffs, but down in San Jose, the Stanley Cup playoffs, Game 7 tonight for the San Jose Sharks. We got Brandon Ritterman rocking his jersey in our newsroom. So if you see a Sharks fan today, hug them.
Hug them, because two Game 7s in two straight
Two
series.
Game 7s in 2 weeks. That's pretty remarkable.
Can the heart take it?
I don't think so. I can't take it, and I'm not even.
I've known some people that have just passed out.
I know
pure
someone.
exhaustion.
We know definitely
Yes, we
someone
do.
who's going
He
to
can't
pass out
watch.
tonight. No.
He's in Minneapolis and he can't watch.
Well, he's going to have to.
He's going to have to, but he probably, I don't know what he's going to do.
We'll figure it out. We're thinking of you.
Get well, Pierre.
Yeah, we're thinking of you, Pierre. But of course, we've got you covered with the NBA playoffs, and we're going to be here every Wednesday as long as the Warriors are in the game and defending their NBA championship at Oracle for the final season. What was that?
I'm just going to say, pick your Warriors, and does it
I think the Warriors bounce back at home.
Does it go 7?
No, I don't think it goes 7.
So if they wrap it up in Game 6,
I think they'll win. I think they'll get the next 2.
that means Western Conference Finals is Sunday right here on ABC 10, 12:30.
Right, 12:30.
Yeah.
I would love to see it go 7. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think that with this being a home game in Game 5, they're going to switch the mentality and then take that back to Houston for a closeout game because I know they're not going to want to come back and do it all over again on Sunday early.
Yeah. Well, and it's like I said early on, I can't see Houston winning 4 or 5. So against this Warriors team, so I got to kind of keep with that.
Yeah.
But they kind of gave you something to, gave you a different look in Houston, and
Definitely.
I don't think many people thought they'd go in there and win 2 straight on their home floor and take this back to Oakland series tied. So I'm with you though. I think Warriors finish this out on Saturday. On Friday.
Warriors in 6.
Warriors in 6.
How about you got the Celtics?
I picked the Celtics, but I wasn't Paul Pierce. I just felt
confident.
No, now I'm not that confident.
Right.
Hell no. That 3-1 deficit, not at all.
Yeah.
But
not
Milwaukee,
that that's never happened before.
There have been some epic Milwaukee collapses in other sports.
Sure.
A friend of mine who covers sports out there, he kind of detailed. It was like well chronicled. I was like, oh my gosh, the Braves, the
everything,
Brewer, all these things.
The
Like there's like
everything.
a line of like 7 series that have just collapsed in Milwaukee.
I mean, the Vikings, or I'm sorry, I'm thinking of Minnesota still. And Pierre, I'm still stuck.
But to your point, I mean, even the Packers, I think they drag them into it as well. So there's been some pretty horrible collapses, and this would be an all-timer.
Well, they're looking to avoid that tonight with Game 5 tonight in Milwaukee, Game 5 tonight in Oakland. We've got you covered. Sean Cunningham, L Washington TV, TV on Twitter and Instagram. Yes, I'm pretty sure about that. We'll be back here next Wednesday for some NBA playoffs chat.